Today's podcast is brought to you by Tetra Hearing. Tetra Hearing isn't just hearing protection, it's hearing perfection. What's the weather like where you at? Where are you at right now? Mississippi?
I'm in Mississippi. I'm in Madison, Mississippi, which is about the center of the state. I'm at home. It's warm, humid. I think it was 75 when at daylight this morning, which is, pretty high humidity. So it's pretty muggy. That it seems like every state has its time of year you don't want to be there. Mm-hmm. So this is the time of year you don't want to be here. And then when the fall and spring come, everybody wants to be here. But Mary and I have a place in Bozeman, so we'll be there for the month of August. We would already be there, but I've had too many things going on. I had sinus surgery 2.5 weeks ago. I've been trying to get over that. And just life is full. I got a 97-year-old mama.
Oh, wow.
She's great. Yeah. My daddy passed away 2 years ago at 98. He was a World War II vet and a hell of a guy,
You've got some good genes then at 97 and 98.
Yeah, that's why I had the sinus surgery. I told my doc, I said, look, I'm going to live to be 100. And if I got to fight sinus surgery at 100, I'm going to be miserable. So let's get this done while I'm only 72.
So you're 72? You look good for 72.
Yeah, I'm 72. Going on 73.
How long have we had you guys' place out in Bozeman?
We bought it about 3 years ago. It took us a year to get it like we wanted. It's a condominium on a really exclusive golf course. Right on. We didn't want a place to take care of. We've been going to Bozeman I've been going 35 years elk hunting and just watched the place go crazy and loved it and I got so many friends there. It's like I'm at home when I'm there.
Right on.
They got a great sporting clay range there, and I shoot sporting clays every week, so nice. I don't have to go through withdrawal when I go there.
Yeah, that's perfect. Well, we'll do a formal introduction here. So I just want to thank everybody that's listening to another episode of Save for the Blind. This podcast, we're going to have a very esteemed guest. We have Mr. Will Primos, founder of Primos Hunting. So we appreciate you coming on today, and we're going to touch on kind of the history of Primos Hunting and your story and where it goes from here. So we're excited.
Yes, sir. I appreciate y'all having me. Y'all live in a beautiful state with some incredible opportunities to hunt and fish. Unbelievable.
Yeah, we think so. We tell people that, and until you've came out here and experienced it, people don't believe you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's amazing what I've experienced there in California. I wish y'all had a decent governor.
Oh, so do we.
You might have to edit that.
How often have you come out to California? Do you make it an annual trip, or is it just kind of every once in a while you get out here?
Every once in a while. I was there last year about this time. Helice, I don't know if you know what Helice is. HELICE is a sporting clay type game. It mimics box pigeons. That's the reason it was developed. Pigeons are harder to come by, and they're frowned upon by a lot of people shooting live pigeons. But all that started in Europe in many long time ago, trapping pigeons and then releasing them from boxes, and high dollar Calcuttas, and sometimes it can be $1 million Calcutta in those games when those people are shooting live pigeons. But Helice was invented to mimic that. So you got 5 boxes. The clay is actually a plastic clay rather than clay, and it has a fan, 2 fan blades surrounding it. So when you activate the button, all 5 boxes are spinning, and you don't know which one's going to go. One can go straight up, straight left, straight right. It can go straight away from you, and so you're instinctively reacting and shooting. And it's all about how to use your eyes and how to shoot the gun. So I shot in the Nationals out there in California last year, and then went on to Napa Valley. I always try to involve something that makes Mary happy. So we went to Napa and went to some great. I have a friend that lives out there, and he has some friends at Camus. So we went to Camus Vineyards and had a great tasting and just enjoyed that part. Y'all got a lot of cars out there and a lot of people.
Yes, yeah. Especially around the cities, but north of Sacramento and even parts south of it, it's pretty rural. But yeah, in the main cities, Bay Area, Sacramento.
Yeah, I flew into Sacramento years ago. I don't know how many years ago it was, and hunted turkeys. And we hunted in a walnut grove, and it was very, very interesting. And then I went another time. I can't keep up with the years, but I hunted Thule elk. I'm a big bow hunter. I hunted Thule elk near Ukiah, California, and that was a great trip. It was right after those bridges collapsed. That was the year, if you know you can equate that to a year. When the earthquake hit, I think, and the bridges just collapsed and smushed a lot of people.
Yep.
Yeah.
So go into how you started with calls, because I've read that way early on, almost 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, you were messing around, and at 11 you created your first duck call.
Yeah. So I was my grandfather on my daddy's side was from Greece. He came over 8 years old as an immigrant and not educated or anything like that in the English language. He learned the English language. He was naturally smart and started learning the restaurant business and ended up moving here to the central part of Mississippi. And he did quite well, had a big family. And I was raised on a small piece of property, 52 acres. And we had a pond and all the small game. And back then I thought a meadowlark was a quail, and I was on my belly in the pasture, in the horse pasture, crawling around with my pellet gun trying to get me a quail. But I just loved hunting and fishing and was always, doing that kind of thing. I, of course, was raised in that restaurant business, and I just didn't want to be in the restaurant business. So I started selling my calls in 1976. I made them before that for myself and friends, but dealers started finding out. Somebody said, "Yeah, get Will to send you some calls," and so I started doing that.
And
I didn't know anything about
duck calls or turkey calls, or what kind of calls?
These were turkey calls. I started with turkey calls. Duck hunting at 11 years old was my first introduction to really understanding habitat and seeing the green timber of Mississippi and the Delta and the ducks coming in to feed on the acres. And I fell in love with it. Made my first duck call when I was 11. I just copied one. It was a Jake Gardner call that my uncle blew. But I just copied it. It wasn't any good, but it was an effort. Anyway, I kept piddling with it and kept making stuff and doing stuff. And I launched the company in 1976 and primarily made game calls at the time. And then as we grew, we started the Truth Series when video became available in 1986 and began to show people how to enjoy turkey hunting and how to enjoy deer hunting. And then we loved to hunt so much we couldn't give up September. So we started going and living out west for the month of September and started hunting elk. And we figured out how to call up elk on camera, which is not easy, but it was a simple solution. You need 3 people, one person to run the camera, one person to shoot the bow, and one person backing up. 75 yards is kind of the magic number in the timber for elk. When they get that close, they feel like they ought to be able to see something. So if a caller is 7,500 yards behind you, 200 yards behind you, the elk will just walk by broadside. And we've killed over 300 elk on video.
Jeez.
Every state in the country. I hunted 3 states for elk many years, so I've killed a lot of them and enjoyed the heck out of it. I'm going to New Mexico this year. I drew a special tag for Utah, but I can't make the trip. So 30 years of putting in, I finally drew the tag, and now I can't go.
Ouch. That hurts.
Like, was that a dream of yours, like when you were getting done with college, to kind of like get into the hunting space, or did it just kind of happen organically where you're making calls?
I didn't really, I really didn't know there was such a thing as a hunting space, or, I didn't understand that part of it. I just started making products that me and my friends wanted. And one thing led to another. And then we just reacted to whatever information we got that looked positive to continue to grow the company. Video was a huge break. And so that's just a timing thing. It came about at the right time, and we could go buy a video camera and later on professional video stuff and be able to video hunts and put a tape together and let people sit down and watch it. And we called it the Truth Series, because we didn't fake anything. If we missed, we showed it. If we fell down, we showed it. And people loved it. We hit on something. And so after the first Truth One was such a success that the next year we had a lot of great footage. And one of the guys said, "What are we going to call this one?" And I looked at him like he'd lost his mind. I said, "Are you crazy? This is the Truth 2." And that was just luck, because I wasn't trained in marketing, but I have a natural marketing brain. So you react to the opportunities that come your way, and lucky to hire some great people that loved what we were doing that became a part of Primos. Most people stayed there way too long, 20 plus years. But we sold my cousin Jimmy came with me, and he had I gave him an interest in the company to help me grow it. He's 5 years older than me, and he became the chief operating officer. So we grew it, and we had 7 departments. I had a minor in business, so I understood profit and loss and budgets and holding accountable, and understood balance sheets. So we ran it like a business, and we had I think it was 260 employees at its peak. We were making a lot of stuff, and we private equity started calling, and we put the company on the market and sold it in 2006. I'm still a part of it. I'm still paid to help do some things, but we became owned by a publicly traded Vista Corporation, which owns Federal, CCI, and Spear. And now they're in the throes of trying to sell that. Who knows where it's going to go? And they've broken off all the hard good divisions. So out of Bozeman, Sims Fishing, Stone Glacier, Primos, Bushnell, they just sold RCBS, Reloading. There's many hard good brands selling products, and they named that company Revelist. So we're under the Revelist umbrella, publicly traded company now. And pretty much everything in Mississippi for Primos has been dissolved as far as the marketing, product development goes, and management. All that is now in either Utah or Bozeman, but we still have a manufacturing plant that we had when we built the company. It's about an hour and a half south of here. It's where all the CNC equipment is, and all the 3D printers, so that we can theorize what we want to make, and then we can print it and look at it and use it, and create a SolidWorks program that creates that program to be able to print it. But things pretty high tech. So I borrowed from the medical industry, the automotive industry, their manufacturing procedures and stuff to make precise items. And that was kind of the secret. That call that I sent you, Brad, that winch, that was at one time the number one selling call in the United States. People loved that call. And the people that bought us thought that waterfowl was too small of an industry, so they don't really market it. They don't market the waterfowl side of Primos anymore. They just kind of make what we had, and they buy it, fine. If they don't, fine. But the winch, and that's a screw-in acrylic model. That's a fun call. Do you blow a single or a double reed?
I blow single reed calls. I think Carson's kind of the same way, but I had a winch growing up, double reed. I think most people started on that. But can you tell us? It's definitely more forgiving. Sounds more like a duck. Yeah. Not as much range as a single reed, but obviously this one's acrylic. It has the screw-in insert. Is that something newer to the lineup? Because the original ones were mostly the polycarb.
We've been doing that. Yeah, we've been doing that for a long time. Of course, the polycarbonate, the molded ones are a lot less expensive. Those takes a lot of time. Yep. Those are actually turned on CNC equipment and then lasered, and the threads are cut with CNC equipment, and so they just cost more. But they don't market them anymore. They, I have the plant make them for me, and I promote with them, give them to people like y'all.
Yeah. So Will did give us 2 of his original winch calls that we are going to be giving away to listeners. So check out our social media after this podcast, because we're going to be putting the rules that we will have for this giveaway later on. But we do have 2 calls that we will be giving away, 2 of the winches.
Yeah. The neat thing about the winch is that the reed's pin in place, but you still can tune it however you want to tune it. And so anybody can take it apart and put it back together, and doesn't have to, if you pay attention, or maybe take pictures with your iPhone, how it came apart, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Back when you were making your first duck call, were you doing wood turned on a lathe or what?
Oh yeah.
So at what point at what point did you venture out from wood?
It was pretty quick because that was time consuming, and wood, depending on the wood and how tight the grain is, and what the humidity is, one thing or another, you're not as precise. So when you're making a single reed and you're trying to make a single reed for a contest caller, I mean, those guys, most of those guys that are in those contests like that, they have great ears. And that's what allows them to be able to produce the sounds. They know when they change something about their hand or their mouth or the kind of air, how open their throat is, whatever they're putting into the call, what kind of sound they're going to get. So acrylic lends itself to a more precise. Once you get it right, it more likely stays there.
Yeah.
But anyway, we went straight from wood to molded calls, and then finding the right molder that understands how to mold something with very close tolerances is also very key. I had to learn all that. I didn't know all that. I learned the hard way.
Do you still have any of your original hand-turned calls laying around, or are those all gone in the wind?
I have a few. I'm trying to think. They may have a plastic insert in it because, once again, that was more accurate, more acrylic insert. But I still have my first turkey box call, which was made by another company before I ever made box calls, which was a Lynch. And I still have that. And I still have a triple reed Jensen duck call. That was the one I was blowing when I was 11 years old.
Yeah, those are classics.
Yeah, a classic.
I have one of those as well in the call safe. I mean, on your guys' duck calls, what was the time frame when you went from making them by hand and then mass production? Was it years, months? I mean, it seemed like everyone had a Primos, or you saw a Primos winch wherever you went, either in the duck blind or in the sporting goods store. And you guys were kind of the first to start making videos, obviously turkey hunting. But I mean, what's the time frame where you guys were just really mass producing calls?
We were mass producing them by 90 to 92. By mass producing, the secret was to be able to have such strict control measures and quality control that you could build these parts, and I could hire a $20 an hour guy and have him put the call together, and it would be right. When we started making goose calls, right after we were making goose calls, but I really loved speckled belly hunting, which I did in California with Kevin Gross, who had stuffers, by the way. He had a trailer with all these beautiful mallards and speckled belly geese stuffed that he stuffed himself, and that's what our decoys were. That was a trip. We hunted public ground and had to wait for get in line early so we get a spot.
Probably up in Klamath.
Get out there. Yeah.
Is this Kevin Gross, the baseball player?
It's Kevin Gross, the baseball player.
Yeah, he actually.
Yeah, I don't want to lose my train. I don't want to lose my train of thought. I'll come back to the duck call, But so I'm at the SHOT Show. I don't know if people know what the SHOT Show is. It's Shooting Hunting Outdoor Trade Show, which is the one time a year that anybody in the firearms and hunting space goes. And it's been in Las Vegas for many years. But before that, the first one I attended was in '84, was in Atlanta. And then it would go from Atlanta to Houston and to different places. But it got so big, there was no place that could handle it but Las Vegas. But anyway, I'm at the show in Las Vegas, and this tall guy walks in. He started looking at some calls. I said, would you like to blow any of these goose calls or duck calls? And he goes, sure. And so I want to blow that speckled belly right there. And I said, okay. So I took it out of the package and I handed it to him. And I said, what do you do all your life? He said, played sports. I said, professionally? and I ain't met him yet. He said, yeah. I said, professionally? He goes, yeah. I said, were you any good? He goes, yeah, I was pretty good. That was Kevin Gross. And so we kind of hit it off, made friends, and he was very kind to invite us to come to California. He's a great hunter and really passionate about it. But back to the goose calls. So the speckled belly, the Shane Kai is a speckled belly call that's renowned in Louisiana. And I mean, you need ear protection when you blow it. The decibels that it's reaching, and it'll hurt your ears, and you'll get yourself a headache, and you'll blow your lungs out trying to break it, trying to yodel with it or whatever. So a friend of mine named David Carden, we started working on a reed. We said we want to develop a reed for speckled belly that will take very little air. And that when Kevin blew that call, he sounded like, ee! And he went, oh my gosh. I said, cut back 9/10 on your air. And he did it. He just started yodeling on that thing. He said, holy crud. Because the reed was actually shaved. So you could take the reed and you take an emery board and you, like a nail board, you file on it. You test it, you file, you test, then you overdid it. Then you had to start over. Then you had to do another one. So we had machinery built that held the reed, put the reed in place. And the reeds are made from mylar, which is an electrical insulation product. And you cut them into rolls. And so the roll going round, you want to cut the reed not in the shape of the roll, but across it. So depending on where on the roll you are, the big row all comes down to little. The reed is going to have a slight curve to it that matches the curvature of that cylinder. And so that makes a difference in the sound you're going to get. If it comes off near the core or it comes off on the outside. But we would hold that in place. And whether it's right side up or upside down matters too. But anyway, you put that in the machine and you have this fine bit and you perfectly shave it. And you could get it down to the perfect, what you felt was pretty close to perfect. And then we mic'd it. And you had some little shavings you had to easily take off that were kind of took the plastic off, the mylar off. But that became one of the clues to how many speckled bellies we were selling, because people could blow it without blowing their brains out. And they were so precise. So it took a little bit of back pressure. I held 2 fingers over mine and you used a little back pressure to create that great, easy to blow spec sound. Specs are great because they come. You can even sound bad and they'll come.
Yeah, we get a lot of them out here, especially early in the season. You get the ones that haven't been hunted very hard. And boy, if you get the right one, as soon as they hear that first note, they are in your lap.
They're in your lap. And you know, that when you just said that, my mind went to seeing that spec turning and coming, and he's not coming straight in. He's going to pass by, say, crossing right to left or whatever. So I grew up, shooting a shotgun. I don't know when I shot my first shotgun. I was probably 6, 7, 8 years old, squirrel hunting with my daddy. And I was a marksmanship instructor in the Air Force. I was in the Air Force right at the beginning end of Vietnam War, 1970, when I joined. And my draft number wasn't very good, and I didn't want to go to school. Anyway, so I joined the Air Force, marksmanship instructor. But shotgunning is totally different. And so when I finally had time, I wasn't working all day long every day. Had sold the business. I was still working for the people who bought it, but I'm not working all the time. In 2019 was when I started. I started shooting sporting clays because I wanted to learn how to shoot a crosser. Because I couldn't. I got to where I wouldn't shoot them. I mean, if the wind was blowing like this and we had to set up on the side and it's all crossing shots, and I couldn't hide shooting straight at them. I shoot straight at them, shoot them at the feet. I got them, coming in the decoys. But anyway, I learned how to shoot crossers shooting sporting clays. So that's been a real interesting journey. And because of that journey, learning to shoot waterfowl, crossers, and that kind of thing, I've met some fantastic people in the sporting clay world. And Anthony Matarese is the #1 most decorated shooter in the United States. He's won every major event in the United States plus in Europe. And he's from New Jersey. And so he I asked him, I said, he wrote a book. I said, would you sign my book? He said, Will, I'll be glad to sign your book. And I said, how does he know my name? The next day he emailed me and I went, how did he get my email? Turns out him and his brother live by the winch and hunt up in New Jersey. They live right on the water, right on the bay, and right on the marsh. And he said, you told me your story about you couldn't hit a crosser and you've learned how to hit a crosser. And I want you to write a book with me on sporting clay. So our book comes out in October. So
Nice.
that's been a fun project, but he is a waterfowl nut. I mean, he can shoot them too.
You guys have a name for your book? The title?
Straight Shooting for Hunters.
Right on.
There you
We'll
go.
look for that.
Yeah, we'll have to look for that one when it comes out. So growing up, obviously, you're doing a lot of turkey hunting and duck hunting. I'm assuming some deer hunting in the South. Now that you've hunted all over the world, do you still have the passion for turkey hunting and duck hunting, or is it switched to, I'm a big game hunter, I love elk hunting? It sounds like you really like going out west. Like, what gets your rocks off when it comes to hunting nowadays?
Well, thank heavens they all do not come at the same time of year. So September's perfect. All they got to give up is dove shooting to go elk hunting. So I love elk hunting because they're responsive and it's just beautiful country, and it's typically in not so much humid environment. So it's a great place and great time to be in the mountain, be in the woods. But I mean, if you've got a great waterfowl place, the waterfowl hunting in the South has changed tremendously. The farming practices have changed, the way they drain their fields, the way they round up, and that most of the fields are ready for the spring by the end of the time they pick their crops in September, October. So the ducks don't have the food and the habitat, the winter habitat that they typically had. So there's some great places in Mississippi left, but not near as many as there were. So I love that. I love waterfowl. And turkey hunting in the springtime is another time there ain't anything else going on. So thank heavens we can go hunt a turkey, maybe get one, and then head to the pond and catch some bass. So that's kind of like a great whammy during spring season, is to fish and hunt in the same day. But I love it all. It's hard not to be there for any of it.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have a favorite hunt that you've had, or a unique hunt in your career that really stands out to you as like, I don't know if I'll ever be able to do that again, or what I saw, was a once in a lifetime kind of opportunity that sticks out to you?
Yeah. So, the wing stuff is harder to video. So all the elk stuff that I've ever done, I think I've killed 45 elk with a bow. All of them are on video. And the one that stands out the most is one that I didn't get. And matter of fact, call making was one of our expertises and what we were good at. And I never called to this elk. We got to the right spot at the right time, and his cows were coming our way. And I got drawn on him, but I wasn't where I needed to be to release the arrow. So it took me a second to try to get things right, and he bolted. But to be that close to a Boone and Crockett elk, like 10 yards, and to have him staring you down, that moment just took everything out of me. It was like I had not had any sleep for 2 days. I don't know what happened. I guess the adrenaline came forth and totally wiped me out. My wife was right behind me. My wife is a wonderful elk caller. One day she called one up for Brad Ferris, my friend Brad, and I'd already been successful, and so Brad's turned to hunt. And I'm 200 yards behind Brad up the hill. They're down below us. I can see Mary. Mary's about 150 yards from Brad calling, and the elk comes in, goes crazy. He's just nuts. And Brad shoots him at 10 yards with a bow, and he runs out there and falls dead. I got up to Mary and I said, Mary, what did you say to that bull? She goes, Will, I know what y'all are thinking. So a woman's intuition on how to talk to a guy,
That's pretty good.
So Will, how would you? What kind of advice would you give folks that are wanting to get family members, kids, friends into hunting? I mean, it sounds like your entire life has been kind of surrounded by hunting and friends and family. What advice would you give them to get people the bug or the itch to get into the hunting or the outdoors?
Well, I've watched a lot of guys, both men and women, husband and wives, hunting families. And, you can introduce them, you can show them, you can let them see some videos, but you got to let them pick it. You got to let them pick it on their own time.
Yep.
If you take them too early, if you force it, if you're so intense about it, it's about you. And you're fussing at the kid for moving or whatever, early on, take them in for a blind so they can move, read, play games, look at video, whatever the case may be, open candy wrappers and just have fun.
Yep.
And don't try to push it. And if that child has that interest and wants to do that, great. And if they don't, that's not the end of the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, each person needs to have that opportunity to find what they enjoy about life and to pursue what makes them happy. So you got to be easy with them. You can't force it. Yeah. So, some little kids are crazy about it without even trying, and some they have to grow into it. I don't know what that is.
We see it all the time because right now we're in kind of the heat of our summer camp. So me and Jeff this last weekend just finished up a summer camp with 14 kids ages from 9 to 14. And we always talk about it's so interesting to see the differences in one maturity from those kids, but also want to go do this. Because you can see some of the kids are like, my mom made me be here. This isn't my thing. And then some kids, the whole time they can't stop talking about, I want to go hunting with my dad. I go out and shoot shotguns with him. And that age seems to be a real defining age for when they're figuring out if they want to do it or not.
Yeah. And another thing, some kids are much more mature than other kids at a certain age.
Yeah.
So it just depends on the child as well. But I'm glad y'all are doing that. It can be a lot of fun. But to nurture a child, to try to help them grow up and become a responsible, contributing member of society is a fun thing, whether they hunt or not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We try to always, when we go out, hunting or fishing, expectations on catching or harvesting are low. It's more about everyone just having fun.
So where I live here, we have a pond, a lake we built behind the house when we built the house. And my brother called me last night and said, can I bring my 2 grandkids over? They're 6 and 5. And said the 5-year-old is obsessed with fishing. and the other one, he can take it or leave it. That's the way it is right now. But they came over this morning and I don't know how many they caught, 50 brim or whatever. They were just, having a blast, I fished with them for about 30 minutes. And I don't know how many lines I got untangled, but I'm glad nobody got a hook stuck in their back or anything.
We spent many hours this last weekend doing the same thing, untangling fishing lines, because where we have camp out here in the Suisun Marsh, it blows wind every day. And so you got 16 kids with spinning reels and it's blowing 20 miles an hour and there's not a ton of open water to fish. It's an hour of untangling lines and retying baits.
Yeah.
No hooks yet.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Except for my own hook or my own finger.
Yeah.
Good there.
One of the questions that I came up with when I knew you were going to be on here, as someone who's built a successful call company and kind of built the reputation around it, then turned it into a whole company. In California, I've seen multiple different waterfowl call companies popping up in the last 2-3 years. What advice would you give to someone that's trying to start a call making company, especially nowadays when there's so many that already have such deep roots in the hunting industry?
Never underestimate anybody with passion, but the economics has to work. So it's either a hobby and you can enjoy that, or you're going to turn into a real business. Everything has changed. When I started in 1976, we didn't even have UPC codes. So when I had to redo my packaging because that was Walmart, and Walmart wanted to buy my stuff, and they said, but you've got to have UPC codes. Well, I didn't want to throw the packaging away, so we printed the UPC codes and stuck them on. But it has to be economically successful. You have to figure that out. And the economies of scale, how big you can get. Waterfowl is not a huge part of hunting industry. It's just not.
Yeah.
The number of licenses sold, the number of people that are doing hunting it faithfully, that go from maybe one state or another, those that have a place, it's an expensive part of hunting. Duck hunting ain't cheap.
No.
So, the advice I have is just remember that everything has changed. We had a two-step distribution system. We sold to dealers, we sold to distributors sold to dealers. And the margin that you have, markup and margin are two different things. So to understand your margin of your product and how much money you make, because if you're going to end up having manufacturers reps who are going to represent you and you're going to have to pay them a commission, typically 10%, and it's going to be worth their while to sell your product, that's going to be a cost that's going to be built in. There's packaging, there's inventory, there's receivables. But the online part, I mean, I got to know Jason Hairston. I don't know if y'all know Jason individually, but the creator of Kuiu. And I got to know him in the elk camp, and we became friends. And it's amazing what he did. He helped create Sitka with his partner. They sold that to Gore-Tex, and then he waited his 3-year non-compete and started Kuiu. And every decision you make in your business is so important. And how brilliant is it to call your business Kuiu, Kuiu? It's the name of an island in Alaska. Just so happens the island next door is Sitka. But but he started Kuiu. But if you Google Kuiu, and that's the world we live in, and that's where I'm going, it's no longer that important distributor, dealer, distribution network. Yeah, you got Bass Pro, you got Cabela's, you got some dealers that are still viable, some archery shops that are still doing a good job. But when you look at Kuiu and you Google it, guess what you get? One choice.
Yeah.
Kuiu. The other day, somebody told me, said, I'm going to start making binoculars. I said, what you going to call them? I said, I'm going to call them trophy binoculars. I said, go Google trophy and see what you get. You get 1,000 choices. So that's not a good name marketing wise. So every decision you make in your business and what you choose to call it, what you do with that trademark, because that's going to be important. There's not much left that you can patent. We patented the winch because of the ditches and the ridges on the soundboard that channel the saliva. That's one of the problems with double reeds. They stick. And we were able to get that call not to stick because of the ridges and ditches on the soundboard. And so we patented that. So you patent it for 20 years from the filing date. So patents can be important, but you got to defend them. So why have a patent if you're not going to defend it? In the last numbers I remember was 2005, because that's when I was in a patent lawsuit. The average patent lawsuit cost $2.3 million, which actually is what I spent on that lawsuit to defend a patent. But understand, patents, trademarks are good for life. Copyrights are good for life. So if you can be first in the marketplace with a certain name, that's why we chose winch. We felt like it would be a name that would stick, and it's trademark. So we own that for however long we renew the trademark. So all those decisions that you make can help you get more and more sales and more recognition, so that you can build a real company behind it. The real strength behind what Primos did was the video, because so many people, we didn't have streaming back then. We had VHSs, which everybody got real mad when they went to DVDs and no longer had a VHS tape, because guys had VHS players. They didn't want to buy a DVD player. And Walmart quit buying the VHSs and said we had to put them on DVDs. So then we couldn't sell the VHSs enough to make that worthwhile. And everybody got mad at us. A lot of people got mad at us because we didn't make VHSs anymore. But the DVD and the VHSs allowed us to be in your living room on the TV screen and gave you an opportunity to know us, which gives people an opportunity to like you. You got to be, if you're a butt, and the way you come across is ego ridden on the camera, then it ain't going to work for you. So using that medium, which was a timing issue of when I was born, that became available and we used it. Let us own a spot in your mind. Y'all said y'all watched Primos growing up, and so you had an image of Primos. You had an image of what it was. So when you go in the store and you see the product, I wonder what Primos is doing. I like them, so you'll give us a try.
Yeah.
So the advice is to remember that it's a business. Everything's changed. KUIU is direct only, and even though Jason's no longer with us, and the people running it seem to be doing I ordered some KUIU yesterday. I love the product. I love what they're doing. It's quality. In our world, if you're a bottom feeder company, you're making the product that's the most cheapest. It's going to last a year. That's not going to work. In our world, we want to depend on stuff. We want the decoys to last. We want the gun to eject that shell when we shoot it. We want the P-row or the boat, the kayak, whatever you're using to access the marshes. You want that to be hold up well and be good. So the advice I have is just don't ever underestimate anybody with passion, and think it through and know that a one product company is never going to be very big. You're going to have to be able to expand off of that. And there's a lot of pain and heartache and a lot of sacrifice. So you better have a good partner, like a wife.
Yeah, it's interesting, talking about you getting into the DVD space and the VHS space. That's kind of what expanded. It seems like nowadays everything's on YouTube, and the availability of somebody to create their own stuff without having to pay for, somebody to edit theirs and put it out to the masses, and like how that's changed. Now people have hunting channels and are getting millions of followers and are making a living off of it.
That's right.
It's ever changing.
So it is. And that's what you need to key into to be successful in today's marketplace.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, was there ever a pet project of yours on a product that you thought was going to be it that just didn't find its place in the marketplace for either production wise or people didn't, want it? Is there any like particular product that you were like in love with that didn't make it to market?
Yes. And I don't know if we want to talk about all those products.
What's your best one?
What's your top one?
The one I put the most energy into, so I was a bow hunter. And so sometimes you get in a situation where you're going to stalk. And you've got a mule deer bedded down, or you've got a whitetail bedded down, and you're going to stalk him. And you got your quiver that mounts to the side of your bow. And so this guy came up with the idea. It was not originally my idea. I took the idea and made the product from it with him. But it was a device that you had on your belt, kind of like a hip quiver, and you could take your quiver off of your bow and clip it on and turn it in any direction you wanted. So you could get on your belly and push your bow in front of you and crawl, but your arrows were right there. Mm-hmm. The first time when the guy brought me the idea, I just was called into a great bull. My wife backed up. She's calling behind me. And I see what he's doing, and he's gone behind a big, huge series of boulders, and I can move. And I shoot with my bow off my quiver. Some people shoot with it on their quiver. So I took my quiver off, had one arrow on the bow, and put it down by the tree. And then I saw that move, and I totally forgot about my quiver, and I went. And so I just remember being there and thinking, oh my gosh, my quiver's back there. If I need another arrow for any reason, I didn't get the shot. But I thought, wouldn't it be nice to be able to have that? So I built the tooling, spent a lot of money, built the tooling, made the product, and it was great. But everybody thought I was crazy, and that can happen. But don't underestimate somebody with passion. Go try to make it. Try to do what you think you can do. It's kind of neat today with 3D printers, because you can design it on CAD program and print it on a 3D printer and actually use the product. Yeah. And that, if I'd have had that technology when I was doing that, that would have been a lot less expensive. I built the molds to get this done. Yeah. Building the molds can be very, very expensive.
I think that 3D print thing is going to revolutionize and create some crazy new products. There's a at our very first camp this summer, which was 2 weekends ago, I had a 9-year-old come up to me. I said, "Hey, what do you like to do?" He said, "I like to 3D print." I said,
as a hobby.
Yeah, I said, "Can you print me a duck call?" He says, "If you send me the whatever I need for it, I can print Yeah, I'm like, how is a 9-year-old going to print me a duck call? So
the CAD file. If he's got the CAD file, he can do it.
Yeah, I was like, this is amazing because it is beyond me. That's not my space. But I thought this 9-year-old could revolutionize the hunting industry with a 3D printer.
That's right.
Well, Jeff, I've got all my questions answered for the day. What else do you have?
Gosh, I probably can go on and on about this stuff, but do you still tinker as a hunter? Like, do you still come up with ideas and like, I'm going to go back in the shop and get on the lathe or tinker on a new turkey call?
I've got a neat little shop and I tinker all the time.
Yeah.
I sure do. I have an idea, play with stuff, look at it, think about it. You got to know though that there's some products that are so iconic. It's kind of the analogy I'll give you is the wheel. If you're going to make a new tire for a car and you want to make it anything but round, you're not going to be successful. If you make the tire octagonal or square or what, it ain't going to roll, and it's going to, so there are certain calls like the True Double turkey call, like the winch, like the Blue Reed on our elk stuff, like the Hoochie Mama, which is a mechanical device that you press on to create elk cow sounds. They're so well made, they're so good, and they're so precise and so accurate with sound. Trying to recreate those are products. Normally a product has about a 5-year lifespan. And those products have been around a long time. The True Double has been around since 1976. I recently bought me a new great product. I've been having some trouble with some little critters in my backyard, and I bought a pellet gun. It was a cock pellet gun. You put one BB in, and the trigger was horrible. And after over a year of missing half of what I shot at, it just horrible. I'm gonna buy one of those good guns. So I called a friend of mine in that industry. He used to work with me. His name is Brad Webb, and I called Brad and I said, Brad, I want a real show enough pellet gun. He said, well, you're probably gonna spend some money, but you need to call Utah Air. And so I called Utah Air in Utah, and I got me a show enough pellet gun. It's the most fun thing to shoot. Got the greatest trigger, got the greatest scope, and it's not a bottom feeder. This thing is precise. Yeah. It is a great product, and they're making air guns now that they're hunting Cape buffalo in Africa with.
Oh wow!
I'm going, yeah, really. So this is a 177. You get a 22 or 30 caliber, but anyway. I love precise products, and never underestimate somebody with passion who'll make a really good product. It goes a long way. What's the saying? The disappointment with the price you paid and the quality of the product is long faded. When the product fails. Yeah.
Now, well, we definitely appreciate you coming on, and we appreciate the calls. Our members are going to get those, and they're going to be super happy with it.
Well, great. I appreciate what y'all are doing. The waterfowl is so important. The habitat is the name of the game. If you don't have the habitat, they're not gonna be okay. They're not gonna be there.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure, Will, and thank you so much for coming on. And hope to see you soon.
Yeah, thank you, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Will.
Thank y'all. Yes, sir. Thank you both. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Save It for the Blind podcast. You can find our podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.